How to use the 40-30-10 method to make more money in your business today. Hi, this is Josh Horn, CPA of Horn Valuation. I help owners build and sell their businesses using valuation tools that work today. When you do enough business valuations, you start to see patterns of businesses that are successful and ones that aren't. So what I'm about to show you is a pattern that I've seen of businesses that follow the 40-30-10 method for success. And that is simply 40% gross profit, 30% operating expenses or overhead, and 10% profit before taxes. So 40-30-10. And I'm going to show you what I see, unfortunately, all too often with companies that don't follow this formula, and it ends up really bad, ultimately possibly the business going away and into bankruptcy. So let's take a look at a couple of quick examples and how you can implement this in your company. So let's take a look at company number one. And at first blush, you may take a look at this and say, hey, they're earning $1.85 million a year in sales. Their income before taxes is 50 grand, 3% on the sales. Great, right? Let's dig a little bit further here. Unfortunately, because company one isn't employing the 40-30-10 method, they actually have a serious problem. I'm going to show you why. They are going to have to pay some income taxes. So then the amount of income gets watered down further. Also remember something I stress often. Net income is not cash flow, which is what you should be aiming at, is cash flow. What else is going on with company number one? Well, company number one has some other commitments that it has to fulfill. It has a loan, so it's got to make debt service payments of 50 grand a year. It has some capital expenditures. Let's say they got to buy a truck. They need to spend 20 grand on that. Could be a used truck, let's say. They also are growing, so they're going to have working capital needs. So when you get to the end, basically what ends up happening is that company one actually has no cash available to reinvest back in the company. And they actually have a cash burn rate of $40,000 a year. Company one is probably going to go out of business without a serious change. Now, company number two is employing the 40-30-10 method. Let's take a look at this. Company number two is getting 40% gross profit. Their overhead or operating expenses are 30% of sales, and they're getting a 10% pre-tax profit. How's this change things? It changes things really positively for company number two, because even though they're going to have to pay some income taxes, they're still going to have $139,000 of income after taxes. And even with commitments, other cash commitments, they are going to end up with $64,000 a year of cash to reinvest back into the business. This is key because a business can't survive without cash going back into the business for reinvestment. So I'm going to give you a worksheet here, and I'll attach this to my blog and various posts, and you can work through this yourself. How do you fix this? How do you fix this problem? If you're way off the mark here, if you're not hitting these marks, what should you focus on? Well, I'm going to say a few things here that may run counter to some of the things you've heard in the past, which is I wouldn't spend a ton of time at first on your operating and overhead expenses. I'd take a look at them quickly and figure out, are you within the margin of error of 30%, give or take? Because if you are, I would say you really need to march right up to the top and pay a larger bit of attention on how you are pricing your products and services and how you are buying from your suppliers. So the levers that are going to move this in your direction a lot quicker are going to be the gross profit levers, which are how you price your products and services and how you buy from your suppliers. And what I would encourage you to do is to highly consider a price increase if you haven't already. And if you're fearful, if you're pushing back against this right now, if that immediately puts you in a defensive position, then you probably have bigger problems in your business. That is, you have customers that are just buying from you based on price, which is not a sustainable position with a small business. So where you probably need to fix that issue is to build your brand, build your niche, solve bigger problems for your customers. That's actually a better way to attack this. Now, if your operating and overhead expenses are way too high, you've got too big a building, too many heads, insurance is too high, etc., yes, take a look at that. But I often find that's not actually where the problem lies with many businesses that I look at. Actually, their overhead is, anywhere from 25 to 35%, give or take. Usually. Sometimes it gets out of hand, but usually, and we're assuming that the sales are somewhat stabilized or flat. Obviously, you want to grow your business, but just using a rough baseline of your annual sales, what's your overhead? Look at that real quick. Is it 30% plus or minus? Then take a look at that gross profit percentage. How can you goose that up? Are you prepared to increase your prices? If not, why? Or can you lean on your suppliers? One of the biggest mistakes I see is that companies will try to gain market share by dropping their price. That is blowing a hole in your foot. Because what ends up happening is the business starts to gain sales. Actually, it's too hard to steer the ship as it gets larger and larger. Now your problem just grows because now you've got this situation where you've got really thin gross margins and you've got much bigger overhead. So how do you fix that? Well, it's a much more complicated problem to solve as the company gets a higher sales base, and they've done it by basically discounting, which is a bad way to approach this problem of trying to grow your business. Better to get better customers and charge premium prices. This is Josh Horn, CPA of Horn Valuation. Get in touch with me if you have any questions. Have a great day. Bye.